Isaiah 43 verse 19 says, "For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland."
I love that verse, man. I really do love that verse. Welcome back to the Black Bible.
The Black Bible.
The Black Bible.
The Black Bible.
Message and rhythm.
Moments in the Bible that make us go, what?
God can take an unfavorable situation and turn it.
They don't have that type of insight to say, and I'm going to say maturity.
Like I said, I will try my best to stall, but it's going to be like, people who know me, it's going to be written all over my face. Yeah.
Church is made of imperfect people trying to serve a perfect God.
Welcome back to the Black Bible, and this week's topic is You've Changed, and That's Okay. We are going to be covering personal change, when you make the choice to change, the fight to change, accepting the past, and we're going to end it off with friends and environment, and we're just going to really just kind of sort of talk about our own experiences when it came to making the choice to change for the better, whether that be to break out of a bad habit, or change our environment, or even something like change the group of people that we're hanging around, all for the betterment of ourselves. And this topic, in my opinion, is going to sound very selfish, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do for yourself. Mm-hmm. So, but first of all, let's just start from the top. The choice to change, like, and you don't have to go into great detail about it, but in what instance in your life did you see something or feel something and you're like, you know what, I got to change this?
I think for me, it's, it was when I went to college. I realized that I was doing a lot of things for my mother's approval when I went. And I realized that wasn't really healthy.
Right.
'Cause I remember in high school, it came down to the last moments of the semester of my senior year, and I was so worried that I wasn't going to be in the top 10%. And I was so frightened that, you know, like, oh, my mom's going to be so upset with me. My mom's going to be so upset with me. Like, not even my dad. Like, my mom is going to be so upset with me.
Right.
And so I got to college, and first of all, I wanted to be an engineer. But then, like, I kind of talked myself out of it. And I said, okay, I'm going to do psychology like my mom, which I loved. But don't get me wrong, but I should have been an engineer. Like, that's just the bottom line.
Right.
Or something doing with the creative, being building things and creating things, because I mean that's just how I am. But I decided to do psychology, and I fell in love with music, and I've always been in love with music. And I told my mother, I said, I'm going to be a music major, and I'm going to be a psych minor. And she looked at me dead in my face and said, "What are you going to do with that degree?" And I said, okay, I'll just stick with my psychology major. But then I felt like literally this is what I knew for the moment and the season that I had to do. Right. Like everything in me was like, yes, you know, I love my psych classes, but these music classes, the ones that I'm taking, they're challenging, but it's so rewarding at the end. And I knew that's kind of like, I needed to be in that space, that creative space, even if I didn't take it further beyond college, you know, because I mean, I lead worship at my church, so those skills are going to be handy with me.
Right.
But I remember saying, oh, I could do this and I could do that. And I'm trying to, you know, make excuses and trying to say, oh, like, it's not just, I don't just have to do this. Like, I can pair it with this. I just don't have to sing. I could be a music therapist. Like, I can do all this stuff. And really and truly, I knew I didn't want to go into therapy. I knew that. I knew that my psych degree was really just going to be something to appease somebody else.
Right.
Even though, again, I loved my psychology classes and I loved having this degree because then it opened my mind to other opportunities and other possibilities. But when I stuck my foot down for the first time and said, no, I'm going to be a music major. I'll double major if I have to, but I'm going to be a music major. And I stuck my foot down. That's the first moment where I knew that I had to change. Like, I couldn't let other people try to talk me out of something that I knew in my soul that I had to do. I couldn't let that happen to me anymore. And so, I stuck my foot down, and my mom didn't understand. She was like, she didn't get it until she saw how hard it was.
Right.
Like, I think when people say, oh, you have a music degree, they think it's really easy. But until they see, like, the work that had to go into it, she was like, I think she understood, like, no, this is not something that, she's not choosing an easy path. Like, this is difficult stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, like, I think when I reached college and I realized that this is what I want to do, and you're not going to stop me. Either you get on board or you get left. Like, that's the mentality that I picked up. That's when I knew, when I decided that music was it, I knew I had to change. I had changed my attitude towards, I'm just going to do this so you can be happy. No, it's either you get on board with what I'm going to do, or you get left. Like, that's just the bottom line. What about you? When did you realize you had to change?
I think one of the moments, because there was several moments in my life where I realized either I have to change or I have to get out of this situation, because I think that's also an aspect of change too. But one moment is, one of my earliest moments that I remember is dealing with my emotion, more specifically anger. And that when I was younger, well, I wouldn't say when I was younger, probably about 10, 12, 13, I used to get angry really quickly over the smallest things. And I remember one day, and usually that was a result of me having an argument with my mother. And I remember one day, it just, in the middle of the argument, it just clicked. Like, and again, this is me being 13, 14, it just clicked. Like, you know what? I'm tired of being angry almost all the time. Like, it just clicked, because it went from, I used to get angry over the littlest things to now, back then, I was angry pretty much all the time.
I feel that. So
it just clicked one day, like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm tired of being angry all the time. And from that, I said to myself, you know what? Again, I didn't know back then what I knew now about the power of the mind and the power of positive thinking. But I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to stop being angry. Not necessarily like cut off the emotion of anger completely. But, like, you know what, in situations where it's not called for, I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to think through the situation. I'm going to approach the situation from a different aspect instead of being, like, 100% all the time, just angry. And it's been, I'm 21 now, I was 14, it's been about 7+ years. And while I may not have complete control over the emotion of anger, I'm definitely in a better place emotionally than I was 7 years ago. So
I want to ask a question, like, because I also, me, I've also dealt with that emotion of anger, and so I totally understand of being just being angry. Like, I totally get it. How was that struggle to change? How was that fight to change for you? To change from a person who is totally angry all the time to a person who is like, you know what, this is not a situation where it calls for it to be like hot-headed mad. Let me just take a step back. Let me take a breather. Let me talk myself down. How was that process for you? Because I know for me, it was a hard process. Like, there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of, God, why me, God? There was a lot of slip-ups.
Right.
Where I have to, like, I'd slip and then I'd catch myself and beat up on myself because I know so much more. I know what I want to do. I know how bad I want to change. So how's that for you?
I'd say the process was relatively difficult. Because it definitely wasn't an easy process. in that I remember there were times specifically where like you said, like I wanted to get angry, I wanted to get mad, I wanted to fly off the handle, but I told myself like, no, you've been doing good. And yes, there was times where I've slipped up, and again, usually with arguments with my mother is usually the most of the times I would like slip up and just like, fall back into that old habit. But I recognized that every time I had slipped up, it's like, okay, it just showed me like, all right, I'm going to try twice as hard the next time.
Right.
And so eventually it became, and when I started to, not to get too religious, but when I started to just read devotionals, read the word, and just kind of not the word on top of just reading like encouragement from different sources, it really helped me to be like, okay, is one day at a time. Like, okay, today I got angry, but tomorrow I won't get angry. Or I could look back on the week like, okay, I was angry Monday, I was angry Friday. But the good thing is that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, I didn't get angry at all. So it was a hard fight, because the one thing that I do know is that it's easy to kind of sort of slip back into your old habit. I know they say I think they say it takes 31 days to break a habit.
40, I think.
Or 40 days to break a habit. But in my honest opinion, like, there's some habits that it takes more than 40 days. Like, there's some habits to me that it takes years to get out of. And that's because you've been doing the same thing you've been in the same habit since you were younger. And just 40 days is not enough to break you out of something that you've been doing for 4 or 5 years. So, but to kind of bring it back, like, it was a very difficult fight, but it was through the fighting that I've learned that, okay, I got this. Okay, again, one day at a time. If I got angry today, tomorrow I'm gonna try twice as hard. And if I got angry the next day, then okay, I'm gonna try 3 times as hard. I'm gonna keep going until I can say, you know what, I got a handle on this. And like I said, like, I'm still, even like I said, 7 years later, like, I'm still in that fight. I'm still in the trenches fighting, because it's still nipping at my heel.
Right.
But I know that I'm a lot better. I'm a lot more stronger than I was 7 years ago when I was 14 and I first decided to tackle this. So I know there's certain things or certain tactics I can do to calm myself down and to bring my mind down from that heightened state of anger. And there's certain things that I know that I have to do. Okay, I have to take time for myself.
Yeah.
If the conversation, if the argument requires for me to walk away, I'm just going to have to walk away.
Yeah.
Because it's better I walk away than stay and feed into that emotion.
Yeah.
So I think, again, like, and I think that just goes to show you, like, 7 years later, I'm still fighting. That just goes to show you how deeply ingrained it was in my person.
Yeah.
And me, I should say. So it's for me, it's not like a hardcore fight, but it definitely is a hard fight.
Yeah, I could totally agree. Like, even when it's talking about just like, I think the biggest change in my life, will not only just like standing up for myself and telling our mom that, it's either you're going to support me or I'm going to do this without you, was also anger.
Right.
Like, and how bad it was. Like, it was so bad. And I honestly I can agree with you but for me, the fight was it was like fighting for my life when it came for me in anger, because it was things I had to learn that to not react off of being triggered. And I think it's they got real heavy. It's the hardest thing to try to not to react off of being triggered.
Right. I agree.
Because there are certain things, and it'll be arguments that happen, and my mind would be triggered. And automatically, the reason why I'm so pissed off or the reason why I'm so angry is because I'm trying to protect myself from you hurting me. And when I mean hurting me, I don't mean like I was like punched in the face. Physical but I think hurting. Mentally and emotionally, I was so and I think it was around your age, around like 10 to 16, I was sick and tired of being emotionally beat upon.
Right.
Like, because I always felt like if anything happened, it was my fault. And so I was angry all the time because I was like, this is not my fault. This is not my fault. And you're blaming me, which is not the truth. So I think for sure, that fight of trying to stay calm, it finally clicked about like 18, 19 when it finally clicked. It clicked later for me than it did for you, because I always constantly felt like I had to fight. Like I always constantly felt like something was wrong with me. But I'm not going to say 18. I think around 18 I realized that I don't have the energy anymore to do this.
Right.
And so I was making the change slowly, but not as rapidly as I wanted to. And I think around 18, I realized I don't have this type of energy. Like, if we're going to fight, you're going to have to be by yourself. I can't do this anymore. I realized, I did realize that earlier, but like later on, like when I think I realized, like you said, around 14, I think about like 16, I realized I don't want to do this anymore. And by 18, I was like, I don't have the energy. Definitely don't want to do this anymore. Have the energy. Like, I really don't have the energy. And so I have to really look in myself and say, especially when I hear those things that triggers me, right. I have to say, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. It's okay. Don't get the relax, like relax. And I have to do things, like you said, do things that calm me. And if it, like I said, if it is walking away, it's walking away. It's, sometimes it's just nodding and going, while I'm talking myself down. Right. Or if you ever see me just go real quiet and just be like, yeah, and not say anything, that's me just trying to relax my whole entire being, because what I want to do is tell you how it is and put you in your place. But I think part of that, knowing that, is accepting the past. I think part of that is accepting that this is what has happened, and I can't move forward I can't look back and move forward at the same time. Right. Like, I have to accept, like, this is what's happened, and that's in the past. And I can't keep going back to the past and dragging the past with me. Mm-hmm. I have to let it go and move forward. I don't know about you, but I feel like accepting the past is such an important part of moving forward.
I do agree. Like I said, even on top of anger, collecting my thoughts. Even on top of anger, it's like, okay, there's been people I've hurt. There's been things that I have done. Yeah. Like, and especially and things that I've done to myself, things that I've done to family, things that I've done to friends, things that I've done to people that I said I loved and care about. But the thing about it is that, while I'm not proud of those things that I've done, I accept that I have done those things. Because I feel as if you're constantly I won't say life isn't like a movie. Yeah. Because, some of those movies where the main character would move to not backwater, but to this low population place and try to start a new life there. Yeah. And they find a lover and, they start a family. But the thing about it is that, and I know I said, life isn't like a movie, but the thing about some of those movies is that 20 years later, here comes somebody from their old stomping grounds. Yeah. And it's like, oh, aren't you such and such? Oh, you used to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C. And this person just sees their world just crumbling around them. Because it's like, I left that place to escape from that.
Yeah.
And now here it is. But it's one thing to kind of sort of do that, and there's another thing to kind of sort of like, before you leave that place, to set everything in order.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. To where is that, okay, this was the person that I was here. Yeah. These are the things that I've done in this season. Yeah. These are the things that I've done in this year, in this moment in time, in this week. But I'm making a decision to no longer be that person. I'm making a decision to no longer do those things that hurted the people that I love or even hurt myself. And so once yes, granted, everybody's situation is different, but I feel as if like you said, half the battle to change is accepting that the things that you've done, the things you've done. That's what I want to say. That's half the battle. Once you accept that you've did these things, you were this person at this point, then you're already halfway there. Because now that you confronted that, should it come back to haunt you, you say, yeah, that was me, but that's no longer me. Yeah. Yeah, I did those things in the past, but I'm not that person now. I'm a different person. I've changed. And I think, and as a side note, because I want to make sure I hit everything, I think the notion of, and I think when you tell people, like, okay, say I hurt you, and years later I come back and you say, no, I've changed. I think that the word I've changed, just the word alone, I've changed, has lost its meaning. Yeah. And that it used to, in my honest opinion, it used to be able that you tell someone that you've changed and they could believe you at face value. They could believe you even if you really did change, even if you really didn't change. Yeah. But nowadays, you tell somebody that you've changed and they're like, really, have you? Yeah. Which, in my honest opinion, is kind of a double-edged sword, because even if you really did change, it makes it seem as if they don't believe that you have. Yeah. But on the other side, it holds you accountable to your words, because if you say you've changed, then the actions that you've done before, you wouldn't do them anymore to me. Yeah. I don't know about you, but whenever someone comes to me and say, oh, well, I've changed, I used to be able to take it at face value, but I no longer take it at face value. Now I'm like, okay, you said that you've changed. Okay, let's see how you act now. Yeah. Because some people, and again, I'm getting away from it. You're okay. But some people will say that they've changed and act one way for like 6 months. Yeah. And then turn back around into the same pattern that they were before. So, like I said, I don't know about you. I don't know if you ever had that experience. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if you ever had that experience. But for me, like, I've not only experienced it kind of sort of firsthand, but I've also seen like my friends experience the same thing, where a person will be like, "Oh, I've changed," and they haven't really changed. Almost put up a front just to get them back into the door with that person.
I haven't really experienced that firsthand. I don't think have experienced that firsthand, but I do agree with you where you said that the phrase "oh, I've changed" is so tainted now, in that, again, and I'm not the type of person to believe a person at face value, right. And that's my own personal issues and problems that I have. But when somebody tells me, if somebody were to tell me that I've changed, I'd really look at them and say, okay. And they know I don't believe them. Because they look in my eyes and say, yeah, she does not believe me. I'm like, that's what you say. That's fine. That's what all my expression says. That's what you say, but I don't believe you until the proof is in the pudding. Like, until you show me that you've changed. Like, and I think the problem is that words have lost so much of its meaning now. Because even like, and I'm going to go back to our conversation, even when these people say, oh, I love you, that doesn't mean anything until you prove it. Right. Like that, I've changed, that doesn't mean anything until you prove that you've changed. And it's so sad, because you want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but the way that the world has shaped and society has shaped us and molded us, you can say anything that you want and to be manipulative. Right. And I think that's where we're going to go into, like, family and environment. Because I think the biggest part of you changing is knowing that, not family, friends, also friends,
family,
friends and environment.
Yeah.
I think the biggest part of you changing and accepting the change and moving forward is having the right people around you, the right family, friends, and environment. And especially, you don't want people to manipulate you back into your old self. Because that I've changed part, if you've truly changed and you've shown that you've changed, people should accept that. Especially if you're changing for the better. But there's some people who would say, oh, you've changed, you're different. And they want to like make you feel as though you shouldn't have changed in the first place.
Right. And that's why I have the belief, I don't think it's a controversial belief. I think pretty much everyone, well, relatively almost everyone, I won't speak for the world, could agree with me when I say that there are when you make the decision to change, there are certain places and certain people you're just going to have to let go.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain places you can't go anymore. There's certain people you're going to have to cut off.
Yeah.
Because like you said, and even if they don't try to manipulate you and mentally strong arm you into changing back to who you were, like, there's some people who could only see you for the person you were before the change. Yeah. And they're always going to, and I won't say that they do it on purpose, or maybe they do, but they're always going to bring who you were up before the change. Yeah. And it may seem like I'm contradicting the fact that I said earlier that, okay, you accept it if someone should bring it up, but there's a difference between someone confronting you about the things that you've done and someone constantly reminding you about the things that you've done. There's a big difference, because that constant reminder is always going to kind of sort of make it, in my opinion, make it more difficult to focus on moving forward. Right. Because now it's just like you have that person is constantly in your ear talking about, oh, remember when you did, remember when you said, remember when you went and da 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 da. So now it's almost like it's nagging in your ear. Yeah. Like, that's almost what it is. And you kind of sort of just like, okay, I've accepted that I'm no longer that person. Right. But now it's like, okay, I can't keep my eyes forward because this person is constantly nagging me about what I've done in the past. I hope I'm making sense. Yeah, you're making sense. It's just, it's hard for you to, again, it's almost the same way, like, if you're trying to read something and someone is talking to you at the same time. Yeah. It's hard. You can only focus on one thing or another. You can only focus on, I believe there are people out there that can multitask like that. But I know for me personally, if someone is talking to me and I'm reading at the same time, I either have to listen to the person talking or I have to focus on reading. Yeah. And if you're like me, you kind of sort of don't want to ignore the person who's talking, because at the end of the day, you don't feel good ignoring them. So I feel as if, and I just want to clarify, when I say cut the person off, I don't mean that, because again, today to say that when you cut a person off, you cut them off entirely. Yeah. What I mean is that there's some people that you got to cut off entirely. Yeah. And there's some people you got to keep at an arm's length. Yeah. To whereas that if they were in your inner circle before, they're now on the outside. They're now outside your inner circle. Like, you can still talk to that person and maybe you can even hang out with them once in a while. But now it's like, okay, I got you 5 feet, 10 feet, or however short or long your arm is. Yeah. That's what I mean when I say cutting somebody off. Because sometimes, and again, sometimes it's difficult. It is. It's difficult. It is. Because sometimes you don't want to be that person. Yeah. You know? I know, I don't want to quote Swoozie wrong. Yeah. But I know Swoozie said in one of his videos, instead of focusing on burning bridges, something about mending bridges. Something like, instead of focus on, let's build more bridges instead of burning them. Yeah. And sometimes you don't want to be that person, but sometimes it's necessary to be that person to burn that bridge in order to move on. And other times you can keep that bridge open. Yeah. You could keep that bridge there, but you might want to put a toll booth on the bridge. So it's like, okay, for you to walk over the bridge, you have to pay this fine. Mm-hmm. If that analogy makes any sense.
It makes sense.
So yeah, and I think that's just the bottom line, at least that for me.
And I feel like we're talking about people coming in and out of your life and cutting people off, and it's so true. Like, again, you have to find people who are okay with you, and I'm not going to say okay because that's a weak term, who accept that you have changed, who are not going to bring the past back up and throw it in your face, you know?
Right.
They might bring the past up and say, you know, you used to be like this, but now you're like this, and gosh, you've changed so much, in an encouraging way. But not to say, oh, remember when we did this, and remember when you did that? Like, you don't want those type of people around you, because you can't move forward when when the past is constantly being in front of your face. Like, you can only look at the past. You got to look around it, and you got to move around it. So maybe cutting them off is the perfect thing to do. But also, you have to know who is in your life for a lifetime and who is in your life for a season. And I think that is the number one thing with you've changing and accepting you've changing and being okay with it. Because there are people who are not okay with you changing. There are going to be friends who are not okay with you doing something different and being different and not trying to do the same thing over and over, who's like sick, when you're sick and tired of doing something and you want to be better. There's going to be people who's like, well, you know, you think you're better than me because you've changed. No, I don't think I'm better than you. I don't think I'm above you. I've changed because this is something that I feel that I've had to do.
Right.
But those people, there are people in your life that are only here for a season, and there's people in your life who are here for a lifetime. And you have to know the difference. Because I think people who are in your life for a season, they're the people who want to manipulate you and tie you down to your past. Mm-hmm. But people who are there for a lifetime, they understand the need you had to change. Like, you don't have to, and I feel like those lifetime people, you don't have to explain why you've changed. You don't have to explain why you stopped doing this or going there, or why you started to see a therapist to talk about the things that has happened in your past. Like, you don't need to explain it to them, because they understand, like, they know you, and they understood, and they saw the drive and the intent behind changing for your own good. So those people who are in your lifetime, you know, they will be there and support you. But those seasonal people who they want to tie you down to your past, sometimes, like, it's best for you to let them go. It's best for you to just move on and let them go, and just let it rock, and let the chips fall where they may.
And that's the thing about, and I won't talk for too long because we're almost over time.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about people, a season versus a lifetime, and that sometimes, like, when a person is there for a season, they're just that. They're there for a season. Like, you're going to have to let them go. And letting them go is going to be a very hard thing to do, especially if it's a person that you've not necessarily poured so much into, but they in some form or fashion poured so much into you. Yeah. If that makes any sense. It makes sense. And so sometimes a person who's there for a season is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. Because sometimes God will place a person in your life for a season to kind of bring you out of a place that you're in. And then they'll place a person for a season to kind of propel you into to kind of light the match to propel you into your destiny. Yeah. Like, and it's sad because that person that's only there for a season could be like a really good friend. It could be like a really good person to you. Like, they treated you really well. But at the end of the day, you and that person was only meant to meet for that specific time in your life. And it's tough. Yeah. And it's hard. Yeah. And it sucks. Yeah. But at the same time, by you holding on to that person who's only there for a season, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting them also. Yeah. If that makes any sense. That makes sense. And so I believe that there's some people, like I said, I don't have to talk about people for a lifetime because they're just that. Like, they're the people who only thing that's going to separate you guys is death.
Yeah.
That's it. But people for a season, like, I believe there's some people who only show up in your life for one season.
Mm-hmm.
Some people only show up in your life for multiple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They could skip season. They could show up in season 1, 3, 5, and 7, like
mm-hmm.
a recurring character on a TV show.
Yeah.
And there's some people who only show up in season 7. So, but at the end of the day, if they're seasonal, you got to let them go at some point.
Yeah.
And it's okay to kind of look back and laugh at the memories, but you got to move on.
Yeah.
If I'm making any sense, I don't mean to get too deep, but you gotta eventually let them go. Let them go as a person. Yeah. Let them go as who they were to you in your life. Yeah. And let them go even certain memories, even certain memories, not to contradict myself just for moments earlier, but even certain memories you're going to have to let go. Yeah. Because if you hold on to that person, you hold on to who they were in your life, you hold on to the memory of them, you're never going to want to let that go. Yeah. And you're going to be stuck in a cycle of hurting not only you, but also hurting them. And there's one thing I know about God is that it's better for you to let go willingly than for God to forcibly let them go for you. Because it's gonna hurt a lot more if God has to pry them out your hands than you just saying, you know what, thank you for being here in this season. If we meet again in a different season, that's good. But if not, thank you for the things that you've done for me. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for feeding into me and edifying me in the way that God has laid on your heart to do. Mm-hmm. And I wish you the best in your life.
And I want to make this caveat before, I make this other point. We were talking about our mom. She's a very, very influential part in letting us know that it's okay to change, I mean, I know we talked about us arguing before, so she's not crazy. We don't want to put that out there. Right. But, as a person, knowing that we needed to change, she's a very influential part of saying, okay, you're growing up, and that's okay. You're changing, and that's okay. So I want to put that out there. Just so people don't be like, their mom sounds horrible. No, she's not horrible. It's just that we were butting heads because we were growing and changing so much. Mm-hmm. And the thing about parenting is another thing about changing and growing is that there's no manual about parenting. Right. So as your child is growing, you're also growing. So you're learning how to parent and be a parent and parenting at the same time, as well as you as a child are being parented while your parents are learning how to parent at the same time. So I think that's why we were always butting heads, because she had a different background and we were being raised. We were here in America seeing different things. Right. So that's another thing. Another point that I want to make is when we talk about change, I always think about trees, and seasons and trees. Not evergreens, because evergreens stay green, but especially here in Georgia, we get a lot of the different seasons. And so in the winter, unless you're an evergreen tree, there's no leaves on the tree, and then spring comes around and you see little shoots coming out. And then it's full-blown spring and the trees are full and it's green and everything looks nice. But then summer comes and you could tell that, the seasons are starting to change, because then the leaves start turning just a touch, they start falling off the tree just a touch. And then by the time summer turns into fall, it's yellow. The leaves are turning yellow and red and brown. And not only that, the tree is shedding these leaves. And so when I think about us as humans, that we are trees, leaves are people who are only here for a season. Roots are people who are here for a lifetime. And so, you might ask, what about the branches? Yeah, no, branches fall off too. So, but when you think about it, leaves are here for people, or are people for a season, because the seasons change, they fall off. Wind blow, they fall off. Rain comes, they fall off. They're only here for a moment, but roots are what keeps you grounded. And so, if you know who your roots are, those people you should hold on to for dear life. But those leaves that, things happen and they disappear, and it's okay. Like I said, it sucks, but it's something that has to happen. Right. every like if the leaves, I don't know what would happen if a tree kept its leaves. What would occur? Would all that energy that it needs to survive the winter, it would go out to the leaves, wouldn't it? So like, it's okay for you to lose some leaves, to lose some friends, and even some family. Like I'm very adamant on, just because you're blood relatives doesn't mean you have to stay connected.
Right.
Like if they're toxic, if they're people who are manipulating you and hurting you, and they don't like to see you succeed and prosper and be everything that you're called to be, you have all right, regardless if they are related to you by blood or not, to say, you know what, I can't deal with you anymore. Like you have all right. Like, it's not, blood does not mean that you have to stay in a toxic situation. Being related does not mean that you have to put up with toxic people. Like you don't have to. And it sucks, because then, these are the people from your childhood. These are the people that you grew up with. But once you realize that I can't deal with this anymore, like the situation needs to change. You've changed and the situation needs to change. You have all right to cut them off and be like, I'm not about to deal with this until you can get it together. But the quote I want to leave with you all is this quote by Oprah, and she says, "We can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are." We can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are. So as humans, we're supposed to change.
Yeah,
we're supposed to grow. Like that's the whole point. Like, except for those who have genetic issues, like we go from a baby to a toddler to a preteen to a teenager to an adult to an old person and then to bones. So, like, we are changing physically. So why shouldn't we change mentally? Why shouldn't we change emotionally? Why shouldn't we grow spiritually? And if you are in a place, or if you're around people who don't want you to change, then I think it's time to make that change. Boom, ching, and leave and cut them off. And, especially if you've given them chance after chance after chance to say, hey, this is who I am now. Just accept me as who I am now. Like, and they don't want to, it's okay. Make that change. Throw a pebble in the water. Make a wave. Make a change.
Look at the man in the mirror.
Look at the man in the mirror. Look at your surroundings, your environment, the people you're connected to. Keep the roots. Let go of the leaves and move on with your life. So, we thank you so much for listening to our topic of you've changed, and that's okay. And literally, it's okay. And we'll see you next week. Also, next week is a Spotify exclusive on music. That's not the right topic. Message and rhythm. So listen to our Spotify for when we talk about some music that we really loved in Christian music. And we will see you guys next month if you don't see us next week.